It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here.
With Barnett Bain, once again from the edge of possibility.
Right at the edge.
Never,
right
ever
at the edge.
Never gets old, that edge
Doesn't.
of possibility, does it?
Doesn't?
So how are you today, Freeman?
I'm a little on edge. No, just kidding. I'm doing good.
You seem a little edgy.
No, not at all. I'm actually feeling really good. I got my delayed taxes done, which is always a joy.
That's good. Are you feeling abundant?
I'm feeling. Thank you for mentioning. Yes, very abundant today.
You are, huh?
Yes, tapped into that abundant feeling. We went to coffee.
That's right.
I was friendly with everybody.
You were.
Well, while we were sitting there, my accountant
That wasn't
called
abundant. That was just
to say that
annoying.
that's one interpretation. I was feeling it as abundant.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was being received as abundant. My accountant called to say, you're off the hook. You put enough in, and we can carry it forward to next year, which is always helpful. So I felt a little relief there, got to be honest.
You know, this abundance thing is very much on my mind. I didn't quite know to the degree it was on my mind until this moment, but I realized last night we were watching, of course, the debates.
Right, the presidential debates.
And it struck me that here we have two figures, and one, each one coming at the world from a very different perspective. And we don't have to scratch too deeply on either side to get down to what is beautiful and good and true about each of the candidates. Do any of us, or do any of our listeners, notwithstanding some of the highly emotional rhetoric that flies around, but does anybody really believe that these men that that folks in general have anything except the good of the nation, the best possible outcomes that they're holding for themselves and for others, for their families, for their communities? Does anybody really doubt that that is not the case? That we are all desirous of a reality that is filled with bounty and abundance.
Well,
and
you're there's a couple pieces here, Barnett. First is the sort of pursuit of happiness, the sort of ideal
life,
of this country.
liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right, that principle that the country was founded on by the metaphysicians, as you like to call them, known as our founding fathers, is a principle to be upheld, and it's not necessarily the vibrational frequency on which politics plays at this point in time. There's a lot of positioning going on, and it's not and my sense is that either candidate could flip positions at any given moment. It doesn't really matter. It's just creating the sort of either or polarity, because that's the game, right? That's the game of politics. I don't believe, or I don't put a lot of stock in, and we've talked about this a bit, in politics as being the best form for my hopes and aspirations and dreams. I don't put it there because I don't think it can hold it.
Well, I view it as a mirror, as a shadow play. I'm not saying a light shadow play or a dark shadow play. It's just a shadow play. It is a mirror of my own personal process, and to the degree to which I take a responsibility that I am willing to assume some sort of response, creative response, from the inside out, energetically, vibrationally, attitudinally, belief-wise, choice-wise, decision-wise. The degree to which I use that as feedback is the degree to which I have an impact over the entire warp and weave of the land, over the whole bountiful land.
I love that perspective.
And so what it says to me is it is a reminder that below the surface of things, both of these candidates have in their interest, at the heart of their interest is what is beautiful and what is good and what is true. And when I go below the surface of things and tap into that, it also allows me to shift my own resonance. That is where I want to be operating from, and that is what I want to be seeking out as I look, whether it's on the tube or on the radio or outside the car window. That's what I want to see in myself and in others.
That is and hearing you say that is an empowered perspective. That perspective of ownership, of really seeing it as a mirror and saying, wow, what's it reflecting back to me, and how do I want to respond to that, and what's the core frequency, the core thread of how I want to be with what's showing up in my experience, is an empowered perspective.
Would be great if we had one of the founding fathers here with us.
Well, we can get close.
Can we get, how close do you think we
I think we can get pretty. One of the founding fathers in my world of a lot of the philosophy that has shaped my life, we could maybe get one of them on.
You think we could?
I think so.
All right, why don't we see if we got him on? We have a really, really great guest on to share with you folks today. Bob Proctor is widely considered to be one of the great givers in this area. He's focused his life around helping people to create, as he puts it, lush lives of prosperity and bounty, rewarding relationships and spiritual awareness. He is regarded as one of the leading speakers on prosperity. He teaches internationally. He's known for his inspirational style. He's the best-selling author of many books, and the handsome one in The Secret.
That's right. He's the handsome one.
He's the handsome one.
That's fun. Fantastic.
We are very, very grateful and pleased to have you with us on Cutting Edge Consciousness, Bob.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope you've got this recorded because I want to take it home and play it.
That's right.
I'm going to send a copy to all of your friends.
That's the first. Is this the first time you've ever been promoted as the handsome one on the Secret?
Or compared to one of the founding fathers.
Well, I think in the I don't know what the language would be, but in the movement, I don't think that's the right word, but in the kind of consciousness that Barnett and I like to swim in, you are a pioneer. 50 years, right? You've been doing this for
40 plus.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Well, I've been in it now 51 years, over 51.
Over 50 years. You're a founding father. There you go.
51 this month.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
let's talk about this abundance, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that sort of metaphysical principle that each of us is entitled to that. It feels lost in the collective perspective these days.
Well, I think it is if you let the outside world control you.
Ah, yes.
We're programmed to live through our senses, to go by what we hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. But I believe we've been endowed with higher faculties, and unfortunately we don't develop them. We have perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, intuition. And if we would work at developing those, we can separate ourselves from this outer world that's controlling most people, and I think we can create our own economy, and I believe there's a certain element of our society that does that.
Yeah.
I believe, moreover, that it is an evolutionary opportunity, that we are all responding to an evolutionary call, to the discovery of that. There's some great energetic attractor, mystery, God force that is pulling us towards the discovery and recovery of more and more of who we can be. And so it is always thrilling for me to hear you, Bob, whenever you're speaking, and to have the highest yearnings of my life reflected and responded to by who you are in the world.
Hey, can I ask you a question, Bob?
sure can.
Did you watch the debates last night?
You know, I didn't, and I feel bad. I wanted to watch it. And we've got a 6-day event going on in Toronto, and I was locked up in the event. When I got home, I flipped on the news and tried to pick up what was going on, but, God, I wanted to see it. I'm a Canadian.
Right.
I love American politics.
You can laugh at it.
You know, there's a point here. I remember years ago I got a green card, and I had to go to Detroit to get the papers filled in, and they'd laminate the card and literally give me a green card. And I was driving away from the border, driving on into Detroit, and I had the most overwhelming feeling of gratitude that I could go anywhere I wanted in the United States of America, and I could work. And as long as I abided by the laws of the land, I could go anywhere, do anything I wanted. And it was just such a phenomenal feeling of gratitude. And then it hit me like a brick wall. There's so few people that live here that are really aware of the abundance and the rights that they've got. I believe America's the greatest country in the world. I love it.
You know, that's so interesting because you really do see that from immigrants, where they get this frequency, if you will, this life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because that may not be the frequency or the underlying principle of wherever they were living in before. And when they get there, they go, holy smokes, this is amazing. And it's true. I think a lot of people who are raised in it don't necessarily grok it.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And I love American politics. I think the political game that takes place in America is so healthy. I love it. And so when you asked me, I didn't. And gosh, I got to watch. There's got to be filmed, and I've got to watch a film of it because I love it so much.
That's wild.
There's both a great deal of light in it, and there is a great deal of darkness in it. And watching last night, what struck me very powerfully is that there is a crisis of dignity. And it's reflected in the frantic discourse that goes on between the candidates, the climate of the campaigns themselves, the media, the nattering class, the media punditry. There is a franticness, a frenzy that is not grounded in any real connection to human dignity. Human beings are not being talked to; they're being talked about, and we don't really have a sense of what matters and what is substantial. And in the way that the founders of the country framed life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness against a spirituality. It was a spiritual republic, understood that these qualities are lived and expressed from the inside out. And the dignity that has been lost is the result of the turning around of that, and we are looking for answers from the outside in, looking for salvation from the outside in, looking for either business models to take care of us or social models to take care of us. And as you pointed out earlier, Bob, so few are aware that it is an inside job, and then the outside reflects the inside.
Well, you know, we're the highest form of creation on the planet, and the mental faculties that separate us from all the rest of the animal kingdom. First of all the other little creatures on the planet are completely at home in their environment because they blend in.
Right.
We're the only creature that's totally disoriented in our environment. It's because we've been gifted with the tools to create our own environment.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And to sit back and think the government's responsible for keeping us is absurd. We're the highest form of creation on the planet. We can create whatever we can image in our mind. But as a people, that isn't happening the way it should, although I do believe it is improving. Over the 50 years I've been playing with this and studying it and working with it, I've seen a great spiritual shift. I think there's a spiritual revolution taking place, or awakening taking place globally. It's so much different than it was 25, 40 years ago.
Wow. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to pick up right here because I have some questions, and I want to continue to explore the idea of the other ways of considering economy, our own individual perspective, and how we can generate more abundance in our lives. But we need to take a break, pay some commercials, keep the abundance flowing around here. We'll be right back with Bob Proctor after these messages.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
This is Barnett Bain. I am here with Freeman Michaels and our guest Bob Proctor, who is live on the phone from an event in Toronto, Ontario. Before the break, Freeman, there was something that you were itching to bring up having to do with inner economy and outer economy.
Well, the idea that some people are experiencing a particular reality and other people are having their own experience. And this is also hearkening back to what you brought up in the beginning, Barnett, of a sense of personal responsibility, how you were owning the mirror of what was being reflected for you as your own experience and not saying it's everyone's experience. And I want to jump right to the abundance topic, Bob, because, of course, that's where you are so brilliant. And the idea of our own economy, our own managing or modulating our own frequency, if you will, to generate what it is we want in the context of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How do we do that?
Well, I think we have to start to understand something about ourselves. And most people do not. We're not taught much about ourselves in school. We don't really understand how our mind functions. These great mental faculties we've got, we've never really had them exercised. Most people don't even know they've got them. And we're programmed from a very early age. We've got this genetic conditioning and then this environmental conditioning when we're very small, and that keeps us on one track. And I think we have to wake up. Now, I believe we are waking up as a people globally, but it's pretty slow. And as a result, when we're living from the outside in, I think Barnett put it very well. I believe it was him that said that, they were talking about us and not talking to us, with us. And I think that's the way it is. They look at us as a mass of beings that have to be looked after, and they're fighting over which one's got the best way to look after us.
Right.
How about waking us up and saying, it's time you looked after yourself? I mean, that's the way the whole design was created by the metaphysicians, as you were saying, because I believe they were. I think they were dealing with the inner potential, with the spirituality that we've got flowing to and through us, that we can create whatever we choose with. But we're not living there. We're letting the results control us. We're letting the outside world control us. And as long as we do that and permit the politicians to talk about us rather than talk to us, it's our responsibility to fire them and put the right ones in that are going to do it the right way.
Well, these great mental faculties that you're referring to and that we all agree are increasingly emergent, without developing those, what will happen is we'll fire these and we'll replace them with the same kind of thing.
Right.
So it will go from chicken to fish. So it's a cliche now that we get the leaders we deserve. I think more accurately, we get the leaders who are reflections of who we are. So unless and until we make internal changes, we can expect to keep creating the same kinds of challenges and the same sort of in italics, leadership, over and over again, although it may become even a little bit more distressing. So to that point, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the great paradoxes, conundrums of the metaphysics that you teach, that we are each responsible for we are each 100% the authors of our own experience. And so the conundrum is, well, then why wouldn't somebody or some leader, why wouldn't I create something, a leader who comes, or a situation that cleans it up for everybody? And of course, the big mystery in that is that the paradox is I can do that, and at the same time we are creating our individual realities. So how can you unpack that for our listeners so that we can maybe have a little bit more insight into that paradox?
Well, I don't profess to have the answers to it all, but I really believe we really have to start working on ourselves as individuals and not look to the outside world to correct what's wrong in our own personal life. I think Buckminster Fuller put it very well one time. He said, you don't change things by fighting existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. We try to keep trying as a people to patch the old model. It doesn't work.
And one of the things that doesn't work, and Barnett and I brought this up before, is a lot of the competitive patterns. And I'll just own my own unhealthy competitive patterns, again, to model this principle where I'm playing what we've what my kids talk about, a winning game. It's a winning game. And there's a principle beyond winning where there's a triumph. And it's not about winning or losing. It's there's an ideal, there's something to be reached beyond the smallness of that sort of unhealthy competitive patterning where I'm comparing myself all the time. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. I think we ought to eliminate competition and replace it with cooperation. We've got to work together. We've got to help each other. See, the law says give and you'll receive. We're proud of raising good little go-getters. We've got to raise good little go-givers.
Oh, that's a good line, Bob.
Emerson said that's the law of laws. You get back what you put out. We've got to be more concerned, what can I contribute? How can I put more into the game? We will always be showered with abundance if we focus on what we put out.
So there are even layers and levels to that, because a high expression of that, I mean, there are certainly many who give with a under-the-table expectation of getting something in return.
That's not giving, Bernard.
That's not giving at all, precisely. There is a giving that is not transactional. It is from the joy of giving.
You see, I think the Magnificent Obsession by Lloyd C. Douglas, that's what it was all about. Give and don't even get thanked for. Don't let anybody know you've done it. Put it out there. You see, we haven't been trained to give. We've been trained to trade. I remember, as little kids, one kid would come crying, Colleen took my toy, and I'd go, did you take Colleen's toy? Yeah, well, she wasn't using it. Well, why don't you, Colleen, he'll give you something he has later. We weren't training them to give. We were training them to trade. Mm-hmm. And that's really that's where the competition and the trading come in, not giving. Giving is let go of completely, abandoned. That's what forgiving is.
I love it.
Beautiful.
It's a different paradigm. It's a different perspective entirely. And you're right.
Life.
Yeah.
Listen, I've lived both ways. It's like Sophie Tucker says, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better. I've lived where all I could do was go after and trying to get, because I didn't have anything I had to get. And I never had anything until I got it turned around.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about...
Forget about what you're going to get. Focus on what you can put into the game.
You talk about oneness. We've had some great conversation about oneness. And the idea of being in competition with oneness, it's cutting yourself to pieces limb by limb. The giving into a mysterious sense of the oneness, the having the strength and the courage, the inner fiber to lean on others, to give not only good and service, but also trust and goodwill, to be strong enough to lean on others. That giving is maybe some of the most profoundly powerful giving of all.
Yeah.
I'd like to even suggest that as we drill down to that really bold proposition that everyone's entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that it's at this other level, not a kind of entitled where we're trading for it, but where we're owning our own greatness, and the result being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That it's an inalienable, to use that language,
it's a oneness, right?
And that it's there already. It's a matter of tapping into it and owning it, and really, I guess, trusting it.
Well, I think you just nailed it there. See, I believe our spiritual DNA is perfect. I don't think it requires any modification, any improvement. There's perfection within. And what we've got to learn to do is get the virus code, get the conditioning, the paradigms, the hell out of the road, and let that greatness shine through us.
Right.
See what we are capable of doing, but for the joy of putting it out there. Like spirit is for expansion and fuller expression. It's never for disintegration. So the higher side of us wants us to perform at a higher level. Not try and beat the guy next door, but help the guy next door.
And be inspired by the guy next door and all the great things he can do, or she can do.
It's sort of the peeling of an onion, and I know that in the work that you do, Bob, there are technique in order to begin to peel the layers of this conditioning. You can't really expect, except in the most rare of cases, that somebody who's been infected by that virus of what we call here the structured imagination is in the very next instant going to be free of it. But there are ways to peel off layer by layer by layer and to allow that spirit to move through. That's presumably what you are doing in this 6-day training up there.
That's exactly what we're doing. That's what my whole life is about now.
Yeah.
Let's share a little bit about what's going on up there.
Pardon?
Will you share a little bit with our listeners about what is going on up
well,
there?
We have people in for 6 days. They're in from all over the world. We've got them from Cyprus, from Tel Aviv, from New Zealand, Australia, all over the world. And they're all in studying one thing, and that is themselves. And how can they take their idea and make the idea work? And what we've got to do is get them out of their own way.
Yeah.
Because we get in the road. And we've got to realize that we've got this phenomenal power locked up within us, and it's a matter of learning how to release it. You see, I don't think most people have any idea who they are. They think they're their name or they're their body. And when we start to realize, like that, I often say, I could be in Toronto, my brother's in Southern California. We talk and we'll say, what are you doing? We're sitting over by the pool reading. What are you doing? Same thing. What day? What's it like? Beautiful sunny day. Same sun shining on both of us. We're thousands of miles apart. Well, the same spirit flows through both of us, although we're on the other side of the globe. There is only one power, and everything isn't a manifestation of that power. So then it's understanding, how does that power work? Well, it works by law. Von Braun, when he was asked by Kennedy what it would take to build a rocket to the moon, he said the will to do it. And he said the natural laws are so precise that we don't have any difficulty building spaceships, sending people to the moon, time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. Well, if we're going to let the higher side of ourselves shine through, I believe we've got to start to gain an understanding of how these laws work. And when we do, we start living a different life. And we start giving rather than getting. And we start enjoying our oneness and we can see the beauty in everyone. We can only see according to our own level of conscious awareness, and so we've got to work at raising that level of conscious awareness.
Yeah. And then the collaboration kicks in. Then we can really start to enjoy the brilliance of the guy next to me because I don't have to kill him anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're talking about. This whole comparing, competing disease, if you will, addiction, pattern, whatever it's called, that distracts us from our potential. Which
we were raised too,
Right.
Like, when I was a little kid, during the Second World War, and my grandmother was pretty well raising me, and she would say, "Well, they're Germans, but they're nice people." Well, what the hell was she teaching me?
See, she messed you up good. We love her.
Yeah, but all our prejudices are programmed into us at an early age. I think the lyricist put it very well when he said, "You've got to be deliberately taught to love and hate. You've got to be taught before you're 5 or 6 or 8. And that's so true. So what we're doing is unprogramming all that old programming.
So once you unravel all of the old programming...
The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read and write. They'll be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Now, once you have unraveled enough of the old programming for this something new and wonderful, the spirit to move through, what is your experience vis-a-vis developing the imagination and the sense of vision and the sense of dreaming and being an active co-participant with that spirit in generating these dreams?
Well, I think that's where it's all at.
Yeah.
I think what we've got to do is remove the lid and realize that, like, we were punished in school in our early age for utilizing our imagination. It was called not paying attention.
The dreamer.
Like, the opposite to creativity is routine.
Yeah, no, the dreamer. I mean, literally, that's an insult. If a kid's a dreamer, he's like, oh, he's a dreamer. And what you're saying, and I think we both agree with you, is that dreaming is a critical faculty in terms of being able to paint outside the lines and explore possibilities and generate and create something exciting, new, and so forth.
I think the true Montessori method's very good. They're working. They don't try and put information in. They try and bring it out from inside, which is really what education is. It comes from educo, meaning to educe, to develop, or to draw from within. So we've already got all there is. Like, all the knowledge is omnipresent. All the power is omnipresent. That means we've already got it. We're not getting it. We're becoming aware of what we've got. And then we've got to become aware of how to use these higher faculties we've got to start to develop ourselves and do the great work that we're capable of doing.
And clearing out the muck, clearing out the distractions and the confusion, and the great lie that there's another out there. The other lie.
The great work, as you put it so beautifully. So, we have a few moments left here, Bob. I want to ask you a question. We had Stuart Emery on last week, and we asked him this, and he paused, and then
well, don't give his answer. Ask it to Bob and see what Bob said.
He kicked the can down. He kicked the can down the road.
If he knew you were coming on, Bob, he probably said, "Save it for Bob Proctor. He'll answer it."
Since he kicked it down the road, I'm going to tee it up in front of you, Bob. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
My God, it's strange that you asked me that. I just read that in a magazine in Bucharest.
In Bucharest.
I love it. See how this frequency game works?
We've got a great big banner downstairs that we created in this seminar with that on it. I thought it was the most beautiful thing.
Oh, my God.
That
is a synchronicity. That is fantastic.
Fantastic.
I was just in Bucharest last week in Romania, and I saw that in the magazine. Gina, that works with me, was with me, and I said, Gina, we've got to put that in a banner. That is magnificent.
Would you ask Gina to take a photograph of that on her camera?
Yes, we'll put it on our Facebook page.
I will. I'll send it. There's a great big picture of myself on directing the people to the room where we are, And that's the question. When's the last time you did something for the first time?
Oh, we want that
crazy.
picture.
I've never heard that before.
It's so gorgeous. I don't know where I heard it, but I also heard it within the last couple of weeks.
Well, we just asked it last week of Stuart. So this is the second time you've asked it.
Yeah.
So listen, here's the good news. You haven't answered it, so we're going to have you back
for the first time. I'm doing what I'm doing with you for the first time.
All right, good answer.
That is
I'm
smooth.
doing it right now.
I was trying to tee up having you back when you're in the Los Angeles area.
We're going to have him back anyway.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
You guys are plugged onto the same frequency I'm on.
That's beautiful. Well, listen, thank you so much for spending time with us. The website for folks to see what you're doing next is, I think it's bobproctor.com, is it not?
That's it.
Yeah, bobproctor.com.
bobproctor.com.
And, of course, you can always get to him through Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thank you, Bob, for spending some time with us.
We appreciate having you today.
Invite me back. I'll be glad to come.
Well, we'll have you back for sure.
And for you listening, we'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
I know.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with my co-host, Barnett Bain. Just got done talking to Bob Proctor, and that was pretty interesting, huh?
That was fun. That is what a friend of mine refers to as the ecstatic explosion of coincidence, that enormous synchronicity of Bob having a banner in his training room.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Isn't that wonderful? Yes,
Yeah.
So we'll get that and post that on our website.
You know what I love?
Which is a nice direct to you guys to show up on our website.
Yeah,
it's
time.
We love you to show up on our website.
Join our community by giving us your info. We'll send you what's going on with the Cutting Edge Consciousness shows and so forth.
Freeman will send you a picture of his new dog.
Yeah, I need to post that. That's important. So let me go back to what I thought was great. We need to raise, instead of raising little go-getters, we need to raise little go-givers. That's a fantastic line. Look, the whole thing was marvelous. I have a page full of notes, and I don't know where to start, but I absolutely enjoyed. It
looks like a Chinese menu.
It does.
I'll have something from column 3.
Especially,
what do you got there on column 3?
Especially upside down. It's bad enough the way I'm looking at it. It must be brutal looking at it upside down. But this idea of clearing out versus there's nothing new. It's in there, and it's about clearing out so we become clearer about our give, about what our give is. And that's a key principle that we've all got to give in us. And it's really about clearing out all the confusion around getting and all the confusion around competing and beating and winning and all the compare nonsense, to say what is unique that I have to give, that I need to do all this clearing so that it's clearer and cleaner, and I can tap into it more and more. That's the triumph I was talking about, by the way. It's not a win. It's a triumph. It's a triumph over the confusion.
It is a victory that is more than winning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a birthright. It actually goes back to the metaphysical principle that each of us is entitled to something that will ultimately fulfill us at a level that it dwells in possibility, dwells in
So
potential.
you know that when I agree 10,000%, and I also believe that we will have some pushback around the word entitled. And I also understand that you are not using entitled from a place of self-pitying projection of obligation on others.
No, not at all.
But you're using it in the
birthright,
the hollowed sense of a birthright of a spiritual being that is claiming.
That's right.
What is already there and bringing it from the more real into the physical.
Yeah, and that, again, we were talking about the great lie of other, that it's not just my pursuit, it's the pursuit, and that it's every person's as expressions of a greater possibility. But
it is developmental.
I agree with you.
Because it becomes a great lie when it becomes conscious. And when we begin to perpetuate it as a way to manipulate or dominate or control self and others. But up until that time, for example, it's a close enough example, I guess. an infant, a newborn infant, does not make the distinction between his or herself and his or her mother. The mother's emotions are the baby's emotions. The mother's rhythms are the baby's rhythms. Doesn't make any distinction whatsoever. Comes the point when they do separate and they do make that distinction. But up until then, it's one field. And so likewise, the expansion of consciousness, the understanding of myself, my own out of my own experience of my own consciousness, where I am today, next to where I might be sometime in the future, where I'm operating today is not a lie per se. It's simply I'm simply firing on less cylinders. If I am aware that I'm firing on less cylinders and I'm doubling down to manipulate with it, then it becomes, I think, a lie. But I sometimes have felt this whole conversation here, this whole digression is obviously a Rorschach test, but I've sometimes felt over the years, I've heard people speak to me and others in ways that suggest that we should know better or we should be different. And it never felt right. It never landed right. 'Cause it never, I grow at my own pace and my own cadence with an open mind and an open heart, or closed. But we do the best that we
that's
can.
a good point. So I don't think this is diversion at all. It's something we've brought up before, that the third story, the post-heroic story, the magician's story, the story of clearing away enough,
so that you begin to become a conscious co-creator, part of which is this exalted giving that is not transactional.
But the point of this is that the third story includes in the first and the second story. It's not like we need to solve it or fix it or eradicate it. It's big enough.
Big enough,
That's
like
the
the
language.
growth rings on a tree.
Yes.
It is big enough to hold everything that came before it.
That's right.
To both hold it, to transcend it, and to include it.
The tree
not to judge
is,
it, to love it for where it's at.
And where it's been. The tree is the sapling. That ring is still there. It is part and parcel of what the tree is. It's not lost on the greater, larger tree.
It is there in its own reality. I know this is now going to verge dangerously esoteric.
Go.
But,
Get there.
But nothing is ever lost. And
that's right.
These experiences of ourselves as younger and younger, and they are as alive today as when the point of our consciousness was aligned with them. They are fully alive today.
You know what's so great? I want to talk about something. This could be a divergence, but it's not. So we had a conversation, and I wish Bob was still here because he'd go nuts with this one too. We had a conversation, several of them, about the whole where the fear story takes us in terms of if we don't solve it now, we're doomed and gloomed, and that whole thread of interpretation. And note the language, the thread of interpretation, which is a reality in and of itself, but it can exist with many other realities that are happening at the same time, that are potentialities that could be followed as well, that can hold that particular thread gracefully. Do you know what I'm talking about right now?
I do know what you're talking about.
That's the point of the tree
when
rings.
I was a boy, I had a guitar. I could play 3 chords. I was aware that there were more than 3 chords.
Right.
But I was unaware of all of the possibilities that the guitar held in it. I was very unaware of that. I was aware that there was slightly more action that this guitar was capable of than I was capable of, but not the degree to which, not the infinite possibilities in the guitar. I could not appreciate that. And so my world musically coalesced around the 3 chords and the awareness that maybe there were 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 chords. The fear piece is likewise a an experience, a conditioned relationship to a certain kind of response to the challenges of life. It's a very limited palette, and these palettes become self-perpetuating. And somebody who is conditioned by fear, it is not a simple task to open to the idea and the experience that there are 3, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000, infinite other chords, because these early conditionings, fear conditionings, are so sticky.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get past them. They're not bad. They're not wrong. They are self-perpetuating. And when we can stretch sufficiently to begin to not be identified with them all the time, but to relate to them as a smaller growth ring.
And respond when they show up as a presidential debate or whatever, and you go, wow, or I go, wow, that is really interesting.
And it is a mirror of what's going on in me, not
That's
to
right.
push it away and
That's
to
right.
get all... You know, there's...
I can... Go ahead.
This begs another piece that we've talked about in the past, or I think like in the car. There's much said about attachment in our community. Attachment. And so often I experience attachment, and I certainly, in my own life for a long time, experienced attachment, held attachment, as a certain kind of numb, I'm above the fray, non-participatory, that estranges us from ourselves. So I think that non-attachment, attachment and non-attachment, real non-attachment is deeply and intensely, meaning deep and in the present tense, in the moment, in one's feelings, in one's thoughts, in one's experience as they arise intensely in the moment. You experience it intensely and fully without holding back in ways that are appropriate. It doesn't mean you take it out on the next person, but you feel it, you log it, you register it, and then you release it and you allow it to go without clinging.
Right. And what you're talking about is considering it in a larger context, so that the thread of fear and the storyline that can get triggered in me, personally, at any moment, is to note that it's up, even observe it and feel it, and then go, wow, I don't personally want to follow that thread very far. I would just assume.
But I want to own it,
but I do
so
want
I
to
can
own it.
release it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to push it down, not own it, or pretend that I am above it, because then what happens is I shove it down, it comes out at me as the way of the world.
That's right.
It comes out of me on the screen of my television or on the screen of my shopping outing to the market.
Yeah, and that's a whole shadow play that is, it's fine, but it's not required. And at some point, it becomes less and less helpful and less appropriate. And with that, we have come to an appropriate
We have less and less time.
It's time to say goodbye to folks.
We've maxed out here.
Yeah, we're close. But I wanted to just say a few parting words about staying in touch with this program and with our community. We are revamping the Cutting Edge Consciousness website to include many of the conversations, Barnett, that you and I have had, independent of the guests. And we want to invite listeners to go visit the deep dive section of the Cutting Edge Consciousness page. That will continue to expand as we integrate more of the podcasts and videos from all kinds of shows that we've done over the past 2+ years. And we also invite you to join our Facebook page, because we'll be putting them up there, and keep coming back.
Meanwhile, stay tuned to KBTA and
KKZZ
as well, and Coast to Coast is coming up next.
Perfect. Thanks for listening.